Hello everyone, my name is Oria Dasberg. I am the Vice President of the City of David. I'm in charge of the excavations and the marketing development in the City of David. It is such a pleasure for me to have you today with me. I want to take you into one of the biggest secrets of the world. In order to do that, we're going to go inside the City of David now, and I'm going to introduce you to my best colleague, Doron. Come with me. Doron!
Hello, Oria. Nice to see you.
Thank you. Nice to see you too.
Don't come too close.
I won't. 2 meters. So, my friends, as I told you, we are now going to have a nice tour in one of the biggest secrets in the world. And in order to do that, I asked Doron Spielman, the Vice President of the City of David, to join me in a small, nice tour, just the two of us.
Exactly.
Because the coronavirus has made us into a very special occasion, meaning that usually this place is full with so many people, excavators, tourists, people running from all around in here. And today it's quiet. So we chose this quiet situation to take you into a nice tour, just the two of us, in order to show you what's going on here. What are we doing every day that we come here? Doron.
Yes, please. First, I think the main thing that we should speak about is where are we? We're in the City of David.
Yes.
And the City of David is ancient Jerusalem. And how can it be that the City of David is ancient Jerusalem if the old city walls are all the way north of us by hundreds of meters? And here, like you said, the greatest secret really is the City of David. The City of David, which is actually ancient Jerusalem, is located outside the walls of the old city of Jerusalem. That is the surprise here. For thousands of years, nobody understood that actually Jerusalem from the Bible is here.
Actually, this is where Jerusalem was born.
This is it. So the actual old city of Jerusalem is here. Let's go take a look.
Let's start.
Okay.
Doron, I think you're one of the most luckiest people working today in the City of David because you were actually here when we found you're going to speak about.
That's true.
So I don't just want you to tell us what we see. I want you to share with our viewers what you felt when this happened.
If I go back to that day was 16 years ago, 2004. I was sitting in our offices in Jerusalem, and the head of the City of David, David Leberi, got a phone call on the phone from the Israel Antiquities Authority, from the archaeologist. And he said, you have to come right away to the City of David. Now, why were we in our offices? Because we knew there was a sewage leak at the City of David, and the municipality had come with tractors to fix the sewage leak right where we're standing right now. So we were in our offices, tourism was down to a minimum. We arrive at the site, and we find the Israel Antiquities Authority archaeologist, Eli Shukran, standing right here with a tractor just above him that was repairing the sewage line. And here, I remember Eli was down on his hands and knees. There was a sewage main, and just beneath it, we found the first curve of a stair that was uncovered in the City of David. The very first corner of a stair right here, and we began on our hands and knees with the antiquities workers to reveal these stairs and realize these are actual steps that are thousands of years old, which now we can see form a staircase that is 200 feet long that go into a massive pool, a pool that is the size of 2 Olympic-sized pools. Now, Oria, you like to swim, but back then, 2,000 years ago, the Jewish people weren't known to be swimmers. So we asked ourselves, what are these stairs going to? What is it heading towards? And we realized that here, this double Olympic-sized pool is none other than the Shiloach pool, or the Siloam pool, as it is known, which is the major water purifying location for the Jews and the people of the ancient world. I would say just like you have base camp for people who are climbing Mount Everest, this was the base camp for the spiritual climb in ancient Jerusalem. Here you had people descending from around the world, purifying themselves as they headed on the ultimate spiritual journey of the ancient world, climbing up to the temple and praying to God. And today, billions of people around the world, Jews, Christians, Muslims, and other people, can all trace their history back to those first people that stood here that believed something incredible, what was so incredible? They believed that there was one God in the world, which meant that all people were created in his or her image, and therefore we are all equal. That gave birth to liberty. That gave birth to justice and freedom, which today are the central values of Western society. And it began with the Israelites who stood here, Oria.
And I think, Doron, that back then you realized that we're going into something very big here in the city of David. Until then, we knew the city of David is the beginning of Jerusalem, as Doron just said. This is where Jerusalem was born, because we read the Bible and we understand that this is where Jerusalem was born. But I can only imagine, Doron, while you were standing here, finding this Siloam pool, that you understood that we're going into something completely different. We're going to find probably the biggest heritage site in the world.
Absolutely.
Which is going to be in the city of David. I am really jealous in you, Doron, that you were part of this group back then. And what I want to show you today with Doron, I want to take you, the viewers, to see where this Siloam pool, where did it lead? This is only the beginning of a story, an amazing story that started here in the Siloam pool and ended, actually, up there, up north, in the Temple Mountain. And we're going today, together, Doron and me, to take you in this path, at least part of it, so that you can feel what they felt back then. So let's start, Doron.
Let's go. You know, Oriel, you and I just celebrated Passover along with Jews throughout the whole world.
Yes.
And we know that Passover was one of those holidays.
Yes, definitely.
That people were commanded to go up to the temple to pray. And these were the actual stones that they walked on. This was the road. Families, men, women, and children were walking on these stones, holding hands, having purified themselves. And the Passover experience wasn't around a table like it is today, necessarily with matzo ball soup.
Yes.
As much as we love it. It was really journeying up to the temple.
Definitely. Millions of people from all over the world coming here for this festival in order to go up to the Temple Mountain, and as you said, purifying before in the base of the city of David. Just before we go inside, I think what you spoke about, we can really see it here on the signs that we put here on the walls so that people can understand, because it's difficult to imagine it. We're going to go now underneath all the road that is the modern world, modern road of today. We're going to go underneath, so it's quite difficult to realize what it was like. So this is why we put some signs here to help people to understand. And what you spoke about, Doron, is this pool of Siloam, and all the road going all the way up to the Temple Mountain. And I think, Doron, like you said, that if the city of David was born because of the water, in the ancient world, water was necessary. King David chose to build his kingdom here in the city of David. King David chose to put it here in the city of David because of the water. If the water was the life of the ancient Jerusalem, of ancient life, the city of David actually was the life of ancient Jerusalem. This is where everything began. This is where Jerusalem started, and everyone had to go through the city of David, through the Siloam pool, through the water, the purifying water, in order to feel free and to feel the freedom that Doron was speaking about, in order to feel spiritual, to go all the way up to the Temple Mountain.
Beautifully said. And Oriel, you asked me about that day, and here I remembered. I'm carrying a picture around with me to show to our viewers.
Yes, a beautiful picture.
This was the day. You can see the tractor standing here, right above in the air, and the beauty with which you described this experience. Back then, we just saw the beginning of a stair that we're sitting in this picture, and like you said, we felt an energy wash over us saying, where does the staircase go? What is the meaning of this pool? It's an entirely new element to Jews and to Gentiles throughout the world that value the Bible to understand the idea of pilgrimage.
Exactly.
And but like we know, with every great journey and every great vacation and every great pilgrimage, there's something you need to do at the very beginning. Like you do when you're going on a trip at the airport when you stop at duty free. Maybe you should show us,
I want to
Oriel,
take you. Come.
to your favorite place.
My favorite place in the city of David. Come.
watch your step here to those tens of thousands of people that are watching right now. This site is an active archaeological excavation usually. So where are we, Oriane? Why are you smiling?
Everyone that knows me know that this is my favorite place in the city of David. And you know why, Doron? This is the Fifth Avenue. This is the Fifth Avenue of ancient Jerusalem. One of my favorite places in the world is the Fifth Avenue in New York. I'm sure most of the viewers can agree with what I'm saying. And every time I go this road, this Fifth Avenue road, all these shops, and you can just look with your eyes. You don't even have to buy, and you feel with so much enthusiasm about what's going to happen. And this is exactly what was happening here. This was the duty free of the people that were going all the way up to the Temple Mountain. They were purified, and they are now buying the sandals, the food, the spices, the robes, everything they needed for the journey. They're in a journey. It's not a short journey all the way up, and it is only once or 3 times in a year, maybe once in a life. Not everyone used to come every day, every year, not 3 times a year, but they come here to Jerusalem. They want to take something with them, to take part of the journey back with them. So they buy here in the duty free, and then they start going up. So yes, this is one of my favorite places. But now that we have purified and we understand the tour that we're going to do, the pilgrimage road that we're going to take, and we bought everything we needed to buy in the duty free, let's start the journey.
Okay.
Maybe before, Doron.
Yes, sure.
Maybe just before we start, I want you to stop on the stairs there. Before we start the real journey up, I want you to discuss again and explain our friends what we see at the beginning of our walk.
With pleasure.
Okay.
Please, this way. We'll say goodbye to the duty free.
Yes, I'll come back.
Whatever
sure.
deals we have, it's a 2-for-1 special today. Oriel, they're desperate. There are no tourists here today.
Yes,
no
I know.
pilgrims today.
I'll come back. So let's stop here for a minute, just before we start, because this is an amazing story. And maybe again, Doron, you were part of the mission of the first force that came here and crawled down the stairs. And again, I can only be jealous, but please tell our friends here what you found here and what you felt when you find it.
This was a transformative moment in my life. The archaeologist of the Israel Antiquities Authority, Eli Shukron, and Professor Ronnie Reich had uncovered an underground tunnel. We didn't know that these stairs were here. And along with David LeBerry and a small group of people, we were an expeditionary force. We had lamps on our headlamps. We crawled through the tunnel, which is beneath this plexiglass. And we could see that there were stairs over our heads. And it was full of muck, and it had been there for thousands of years. We weren't sure where it led. But when we reached this location, we actually saw buried in the mud pots. The original pots have actually been returned to the site. They're beneath the plexiglass. We saw pots which were later examined and identified to carry the remains of food on them. And that food was dated back to the destruction of the Second Temple. Why are there pots underneath the ground, underneath the staircase? Well, now we know. The last 2,000 Jews of Jerusalem, according to Josephus, an ancient historian, were beneath this road. They were hiding and shivering in fear as Roman soldiers finished their destruction of Jerusalem, having killed more than 1 million people. They didn't give up. And according to Josephus, they heard people moving beneath these stairs. They took sledgehammers and broke through these stairs, which is why they're broken. They took out those Jews and they killed them. An image which is not unfamiliar to Jews, what happened in the 20th century. And they destroyed the people that were here, and the Romans thought that they were ending Jewish life in Jerusalem. However, we're back today taking you on a tour. The Jewish people have returned to Jerusalem. And I think this is an incredible story of hope.
And now we come up, and you can see that the door is closed. And it is saying that this is an archaeology site which no one should go in. But, as we said before, the coronavirus does have maybe something good in it.
That's true. This is a silver lining.
Yes, and I think it is our duty to find the light in this coronavirus, which is why we're going to go inside, because today there are no workers here, and we can go into the archaeology site and see, as I said before and as Doron just said, one of the biggest secrets of the city of David. So we're starting now, actually, the Pilgrimage Road.
Now, normally when I open a door, I would say ladies first, Oria.
No, this
but
time no.
Now I'm going to say Oria first, not because of that you're a lady, which you are, but because you manage and direct
Yes.
this excavation and this entire project. And it's incredible for us that the most important excavation in the world, which is the excavation of the Pilgrimage Road, is being led by you, and you're doing such an unbelievable job.
Thank you, Doron.
Please do the honors of taking us through.
Thank you, thank you. So come with me. So as you said, Doron, yes, I am extremely lucky for being in charge of this amazing archaeology site. Saying that I'm being in charge, well, I have to say that I have a lot of people helping me here. And we have to mention, of course, the Israeli National Authority, park authorities, and of course the Israeli Antique Authorities, which are formally running all this excavation place. You know, every day we have here more than 10 archaeologists working in this area, which is really amazing.
We can see around us, by the way, as we're walking at the infrastructure around the Pilgrimage Road. You have tunnels heading off in many different directions. I think it's important to note that everything we're showing our viewers today with this behind the closed door tour is original, with the exception, obviously, of metal railings and a little bit of wood. This has not yet been rebuilt. And here, as we look up this mountain that we're climbing, you can see that Oria is beginning to walk on actual stones. And this is the beginning of the Pilgrimage Road in this area. What we know about the Romans is they were professional conquerors. And they knew exactly what they were doing. They knew the key to conquering a population was to do it quickly. You conquered the population, you wanted them to become your subjects right away. And they moved so quickly in destroying Jerusalem that much of the road they didn't even have time to steal because they knocked down homes on it and it was preserved. And so they actually encapsulated ancient Jerusalem beneath their own destruction. And in doing so, they left a gift to humanity. For the people back then, it was not a gift, it was destruction. The Jews were exiled from our land for 2,000 years. But as we peel off the layers of destruction, we see the actual road.
Yes.
Had the Romans taken longer, perhaps it wouldn't have happened. But now we have actually one of the most important people that you had already mentioned at the site here to share this with us, the Israel Antiquities Authority, which is probably the greatest archaeological body in the world.
Yes.
They have the finest archaeologists and the finest methodology. They create the methodology for the rest of the world. Their archaeologists are ones that are actually doing the work. The people that study the discipline and become PhDs and really have the privilege of adding all this professional knowledge and then publicizing it to the world in an academic setting. And we are joined by our dear friend, Dr. Joe Uziel. Dr. Joe.
Biggest friends of the city of David. He's been working here for how long, Joe?
10 years.
10 years. And Joe is actually running this excavation for the past almost 10 years. And he's grown up here in the city of David, didn't you?
I know. I lost my hair.
Yes, you've been growing up here in the city of David. And I think it's very important for our viewers that you share with them your job, the feelings of working here in the city of David, where Jerusalem has begun, and also to add a few sentences about the academic site, academic
where he
understanding.
came from.
And yes,
Where did Joe come from?
They will understand as soon as he starts speaking.
Well, as soon as I start speaking, my New York accent still hasn't gone away, even though I haven't lived there for a good 30 years. But I grew up in New York and Miami, and who knew that I would end up here in Jerusalem exposing the remains of ancient Jerusalem, which I had learned about in the classroom, but had never been to and had never really come into the realization of what that was. And as Ariel mentioned, about 10 years ago, I began excavating here in the city of David, exposing remains from different periods, beginning from the First Temple period and all the way up to the Islamic periods. And there's no doubt that the site that we're standing on right now is one of the highlights of my time in the city of David, exposing this massive street. I mean, if we can just get an idea of the numbers, our rough estimations speak about 10,000 tons of stone carved quarried, brought here, and placed perfectly. And that's just the street itself. It's not talking about the infrastructure beneath the street. It's not talking about the main drainage channel, because as you mentioned before, the Romans and Second Temple Jerusalem was a Jewish but Roman city in its concept. And so there's a main drainage channel that you can walk through, and it's beautiful. And it also took tons of effort, tons of planning, tons of
How
construction.
did they do that,
in
Joe?
order to-
10,000 tons of stone.
Yes.
Joe, how did they do that? I mean, they didn't have they didn't have tractors. I mean, they didn't. This was thousands of years before. How did they manage to do this?
Well, first of all, they had a lot of know-how. They used beasts of burden. They used manual levers, wheels, and so on and so forth, ramps in order to push stones along. And so it became, there was a lot of know-how. We have a Roman architect from approximately 2,000 years ago, Vitruvius, who actually documents some of the things, for example, the manual cranes and the levers that they used. And actually, if you walk around the city of David, you can interestingly see some reconstructions of that equipment. So it's nice to see how you can really get an idea of how things were done, how things were moved. But the most important point of all this is that the street was very, very important, but it led to the most important part, which was the temple on the Temple Mount. And if we're talking about 10,000 tons of stone just to create the street which led to the end point, then it's clear that that street had to be part of the procession, part of that pilgrimage of coming to the city. And so it wasn't just the end point and the festivities on the temple which occurred. It was arriving in the city, entering the southern tip of the city of David through the gate, stopping at the Siloam pool, starting your march up the street. And we know that this was a serious march. It's not easy. I mean, as someone who's been running up and down this street for years.
That's why you're skinny, Joe. Don't complain.
Well, with this corona, everyone's putting on weight, right?
Exactly.
So I'm a little worried. But basically, it's a difficult climb, and there is actually discussions as to, okay, when do you start bringing your children to the pilgrimage? Because they've got to climb, and if you bring my kids, the first thing they're going to say as they climb up is, when are we going to get there? When are we going to get there? So that's an important point. Another interesting, I think one of the most exciting things that we found, because we knew the street was here, and it's still exciting to expose it, and it's still exciting to expose that destruction layer and the buildings which collapsed. One of the most exciting things that we discovered about this street was we lifted some of the stones that were used for its paving. And in general, I think academia, you mentioned the academic perspective, academia looked at structures built that we dated to the Second Temple period, and the first name that would pop up into our head, King Herod. He built everything. He built the temple, he built the Temple Mount, he built everything. So again, the street would be
Joe, when
Herod's
you say street, show our viewers for a second, because they actually haven't seen it.
Here you can see the actual stones as is, no reconstruction.
And this is the
as they
street
were built,
right here, Joe?
And it's
Right-
going down. You could
Maybe
see
just
it's
point out to
stepped,
our viewers
okay?
a little bit about what you're showing us
You
here.
can see it's stepped as I go down, okay? And so I would be climbing up the hill. After entering in the south, I would climb up the steps. And of course, it had to be stepped because of the topography of Jerusalem. Okay, Jerusalem is built on a hill. The Temple Mount is up on the top of that hill. And so you need to use the steps in order to climb up.
So this is all original, Joe.
This is original. We lifted
It's
the
not
stones. It's not Herod. We found coins beneath it. The coins date to 30 AD, okay? Which is after Herod's death, about 35 years after Herod's death. And so the street is not 2,000 years old, it's 1,990 years
Okay,
old.
Joe.
He
Joe.
never saw
He never
the.
saw it.
He never saw it. He had died way before.
We-
It probably took thousands of years to build the street. No.
Well, we don't know how long it took to build, and that's an interesting question, and we really don't have a good answer for that. But what we do know is the man who probably stood behind the construction is not Herod, but it's actually after Herod's death, Jerusalem begins to be governed by Roman governors known
right.
as procurators. In Jerusalem,
But that would mean, Joe, that the road was actually alive, open for quite a short time.
a very short time,
Yes.
because it could not have been built before 30 AD. And I heard you speaking before of the destruction which covers it over. And that we also have very, very exact dates for. We know both historically and archaeologically. 70 AD, Jerusalem is destroyed by the Romans. Josephus Flavius, who describes the events in extreme detail, describes that Jerusalem is destroyed, and after destroying the upper city and the Temple Mount, the Romans burn Jerusalem down to the Siloam Pool, which is down there. Okay, and I believe you guys came from there. And so the destruction that we're finding actually has historical records which allow us to, put them together. And archaeology and history doesn't always correlate so well, but in this case, it's perfect.
It's amazing. Joe, it's a privilege to meet people like you because you're a doctor, you're a PhD, and you add legitimacy to these projects which are so exciting and spiritual for many people and full of enthusiasm, and you add the basis which makes these rocks real and match it to the history, and it's without that, it could always be said to be like Disneyland, and I love Disneyland personally, but this is different because this is original, and that's why your work is so important. And we thank you. Actually, we're not going to shake. I want to shake because I miss you, but...
I want to hug him.
You want to hug him. So you missed the hug. You have a rain check and a hug from Oriana. Thank you, Joe, so very much for your time and your incredible work. And we look forward to your team.
I'm sure our viewers will have a lot of questions for you.
Right.
And we will be very happy to pass it over and make sure that all the viewers will get the answers from you directly, because it's very important. There are so many questions.
These are Joe's buckets, and they're full of artifacts that his team have sifted through. Many of these have not even yet been sifted.
Yes.
In these buckets, you can find coins, you can find pieces of pottery, and
tomorrow, Bezrat Hashem, thank God, some of my stuff is coming back from the Corona vacation.
Okay.
We're going to have very tough time to make sure that we work according to the rules of the government that put us. But tomorrow, this place is going to come alive again, and some of my stuff is coming, and all these buckets are going to move ahead.
And we'll get the discoveries that are lying in wait inside of them.
Yes. And this is the Ron. This is it. Now you can really see it. We've been such a long journey so far.
Yes, that's true.
But I think it's worth it.
These
now
are
you
the
can
same
see
stones. If we simply walk on these stones, you can see that they are actually shiny. These stones have been worn smooth by the sandal footprints of millions and millions of Jews, men, women, and children, and non-Jews, who came to this site in the ancient world to experience the spiritual ascension of praying at the temple. And we can imagine your families coming from all around Israel and all around the ancient world, gathering together. And how did you know if your child was old enough to go into the temple? If he was old enough to walk on his own was one ruling from the house of Hillel, or from the house of Shammai, And Hillel said if you could carry your child on your shoulders and they wouldn't cause too much of a balagan, too much of a problem, you could bring them up. But you can imagine families holding hand in hand here, men, women, and children, taking this ascent. At the end of this road, the white brick road, right? Not the yellow brick road.
Exactly.
It brings you into the gates of the temple where you offered your sacrifices.
And even today, when my kids heard that I'm coming to meet you here in the city of David, they were jealous. They love this place.
Tell me, Oriya, since you're in charge of not only the excavations but also the tourism, what's going to be here? Right now it's just you and me. We've had a few heads of state, because we're only allowed to have small delegations, and we'll talk about why heads of state from around the world want to come to this road. But what is your vision here for the world, the tourism vision? What's going to happen here in a few years?
I'm really happy you asked this question, because I have a vision that is bursting inside me. And this vision is including people from all over the world that will come and be part of what I feel every day that I come here. I want people from America, from South America, from Europe, from China, from the eastern part of the world, from Europe, from Tel Aviv, from Tveria, from Tzfat, from Beersheba. I want people from all over the world to come here and take part in this amazing experience, in this spiritual experience that people can feel when they are here.
Wow.
And I think, Doron, today, in this modern time, everyone is in such a rush. everyone is working so hard. Everyone is, it's unbelievable. I think the coronavirus has started to give us the understanding that there is time in life that we should a little bit go inside ourselves. And when we go inside ourselves, we need to look for the roots, for the answers of what are we doing here?
Right.
What is our mission in this world? What is it? What is my heritage? And for me to come here, this is it. This is it. And when you ask me about the vision, I want people to feel it. I want people to feel part of a very big story. And I think, and you know it because you take many vacations here. And I think that people coming here, this is exactly what they feel.
How many
They
people
feel
do you
proud.
think, Oriel, you'll have a year?
Millions.
Millions a year.
Millions.
Every year you'll have millions.
Millions.
So are
I'm
you saying
sure
that the road will be the new entrance to the old city?
Yes, and Doron, this is going to be one of the most amazing heritage sites in the world.
Amazing.
Not just for Jews, for everyone. Because as you said before, and as Dr. Joe said, this was available for everyone.
Right.
You know, there is a pasuk in Zechariah saying, Ki beiti beit tefillah ikare lekol ha'amim. You will help me to translate
Sure.
it.
My house is a house of prayer for all nations.
all nations.
As it says in the book of Psalms. Yes.
And if you ask me what is my vision, this is my vision. This road will be the house for millions of people from
incredible.
all over the world. And it doesn't matter what they believe in, they will feel part of their nation here in these steps in the city of David.
Amazing.
Which is why my vision is exactly that. Millions of people coming here every year. And I hope we can accept them and that we can make the journey nice. We're working on it already.
Absolutely.
We're
I mean,
making a lot of plans for that already today.
I'm looking, I see the conveyor belt above us, and for our viewers to know, usually there are buckets on each of these that are being brought up to the very top where they're being sifted by teams of people that are sifting.
Yes.
When you had mentioned there are 10 archaeologists here, it's important, I think, to note that each of those archaeologists has dozens of workers. You're talking hundreds of people
yes.
that are working, and
Yes.
the buckets are being brought up and being sifted, and the energy
And they're working from 7 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock each night. And we're missing them here definitely now.
Absolutely. Now, I think viewers should get a picture of, as we're walking along the road and we're talking about the incredible journey, here beneath us is once again...
Yes, what you spoke about just before when we
Right.
started.
This is the drainage channel.
The drainage tunnel.
And it's incredible to think as we're looking down here, as the Romans did, because they broke through this rock right here. What did they see here?
Yes.
They saw men, women, and children.
Exactly.
And I think that, again, the story of destruction of those Jews who were down there mixed with the journey above here is...
Many people, the drainage to sewage is open to the public today.
Right.
Not today because of the corona, but usually it's open to the public. And people are walking down here in the sewage tunnel, in the drainage tunnel. And they don't understand and they don't realize that the real story of the place is just above them.
Just above their heads.
Just above their heads. And if we come back to our vision, in just a few years' time, really a couple of years' time, everyone will understand this story.
Absolutely.
And today, our viewers have the chance to see.
They're amongst the first.
Yes, definitely. They're among the first. But I want you to come back with me a little bit, just a few meters, because we moved back, we moved very fast, and we moved over one of the biggest monuments of this road. The podium. Doron, please explain our viewers about the podium.
So this is the podium. A podium is, as it sounds like, a podium is a place where while millions of people were walking along this road, you needed to have a place that you could make public announcements. It's a place that you would have had a speaker, a representative of the king, possibly a prophet, standing right here, delivering their message to the nation. And Oriel, would you join me?
I will, but we have to make sure that we are 2 meters apart.
Right,
so,
that's true. No, okay, we'll be careful. Oh, one of our archaeologists is sending me a meter here. Here we go.
Exactly.
Let's
2
measure.
meters.
Let's see.
Exactly 2 meters.
Okay, we're good.
No?
We're
Yeah?
good. So
Okay.
we're complying with the various
We're trying. We're doing our best.
We're trying to do our best. You know, you had mentioned that this is a place of unity and a place where people can find their own story. And I brought with us from the safe in the city of David what I think is maybe one of the most powerful pieces of evidence that shows this journey. And I'm going to pass it over to you in just a second, Uriah. But what we see in my hand here are 2 coins. And here is a small coin. This coin says in it in ancient Hebrew, year 3 of the fight against the Romans, which brings us to the year 69, just 1 year before the destruction of Jerusalem. And here it says, freedom of Zion. Those Jewish men, women, and children, they were fighting. All they wanted was freedom. They wanted to live free in Jerusalem. And Rome was against that for many reasons. And the Jews, we lost that battle.
This coin was found here.
This coin was found here, right here. I'll pass it along to you right here. And then the second coin, Uriah, which actually I'm really happy that you're here with me because knowing you, it actually reminds me of you and many people. The second coin was the Roman victory coin over the Jews. And we know that Rome, when they had a victory, they minted usually 4 victory coins. When they were victorious over ancient Israel, over Judea, they minted 48 different victory coins. This is the face, the bust of Vespasian, who destroyed the temple. And here is an incredible picture of a Roman soldier standing next to a palm tree with a crying woman, a Jewish woman next to him. And I'm going to pass this over to you, Uriah, because I think, knowing you, and for many of our viewers, the Romans chose the woman as the symbol. And
Yes.
why do you think that is, Uriah?
First of all, these coins always make me really excited. The fact that they were found here, again, if you spoke to Joe about the fact that things were found here, making it so authentic, so real, it's exciting. It really is, and it makes me understand that it really did happen here. There's no question anymore. It is the place. And regarding this coin of the woman, you know, Dawn, my voice is a bit shaking now because the Romans, when they chose to what they put, what the picture will be like, they could have put a soldier, a Jewish soldier, crashing down on the floor, and the Roman soldier standing above him. This is a victory sign. No, they chose a woman, a crying woman. And I think the Romans understood something that deep inside we understand today. The role of the woman in this world. As the strength of a nation is being brought up and is being told by the women. And the Romans put it really, it's like back into my heart when I saw this coin. The women have the strength to build the strength of the nation. And for me, being part of it, a woman running this excavation, I really feel I'm part of it. I'm continuing something that my ancestors started for us.
It's incredible, Uriah, and knowing you with this colossal excavation, it is your spirit. It's that spirit that flows in you. that I see the faces of your workers and of your colleagues that come here, and I've always noticed how you stop and you point out every stone. There's a mantle covered, and they're imbibed with that energy that you bring to the table. And we know that basically what you and I are doing here is we're dusting off a family album.
Exactly.
Right? Every person who reads this family album, Jewish or non-Jewish, this is your family album. The City of David is your story. That is what is so incredible about the City of David, is that the story here is a story for billions of people throughout the world. And with your incredible work and the work of so many thousands of people that are involved here, and the donors and the philanthropists who are giving their hard-earned money, in the Israeli government, and all the people that are giving of their heart and soul, we're unveiling truly the history book of mankind. Yes. And you and I know at the end of this road, which we're in the middle of excavating, lies at Temple Mount. I think maybe you and I should have another episode in a few weeks where we take our viewers to that secret tunnel we found that goes underneath the ground and exits at the base stones of the Temple Mount.
I want to hear them. If they would want to go with us, then
let us
I'll
know.
be happy to take it with you, Doron. It's been a pleasure. But,
has been.
you know, Doron, one last question. Maybe we start walking up and I will ask you something that I think the viewers have to hear about also.
Okay.
So we will continue here, but I want to ask you, I think this will be the last question probably that we have time for. You have, as we said before, many delegations coming here, and many people, very important people,
Yes,
coming
heads
from
of
all
state.
over the world. Heads of states, big lawyers, really amazing. And I think you should tell our viewers what they feel and why are you doing it and why do they come?
It's so interesting because we have had heads of state and presidents and vice presidents of some of the large countries in the world and top lawyers and top politicians and actors. It's incredible what the response I always hear from them is, wow, this site has inspired me.
Yeah.
Something about the story here, it's a human story. It's a story of the survival of humanity, the perseverance of good against evil, of freedom, the victory of freedom over slavery. Rome was slave-based, ancient Judea was freedom-based. And every person comes out of here feeling, wow, I've connected to my roots and I've added strength. And you hear these heads of state say that. I've had them crying to us here. Yeah. And that's the experience that we look forward to sharing with all of you. So we're going to say thank you and be healthy, safe, and well. Thank you, Oria.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a real pleasure. And thank you for our guy who filmed us today, Asaf.
That's right. It's been amazing. Asaf hiding behind the camera there.
Yes. Thank you
to our viewers at home. We'll see you next.
We'll see you in a few
the
weeks.
journey underneath the ground
Definitely.
to the
I'll be
floor
happy
stones.
to take you there. Thank you, everyone.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye-bye.